that vendor ecosystem and the choices that you make in terms of the manufacturers of the technology and the technology itself, the idea of it working together rather than being isolated solutions, right? Your servers are different from your network, which is different from your storage, which is different from the cloud, which is different from the tools that you use to monitor and manage the environment. All of those things being different and not talking to each other and working together is becoming an impediment to being successful in operating your modern infrastructure. So that concept of working towards a single pane of glass is still a great accomplishment if you can make that happen. But the reality of it is that it's about making sure that you're minimizing the number of consoles that you are having to work with and that the systems underneath are working together. Because that, having one solution that does it all is a great paradigm, but it's just, like I said, not reality. And having those systems work better together to inform you to take proactive actions, to take reactive actions, to provide you telemetry information so that you can do analysis, especially if you can incorporate some AI into your operational tooling, really will make your ability to be effective and your team's ability to be effective in managing all this, but also being agile, right? Making sure that you understand what's happening and what happens within your environment so that you can make the right decisions going forward about which systems are going to help integrate and help contribute to understanding what's happening in your environment across your entire environment and not in these isolated pockets anymore. And then incorporating the concept of life cycle into your modern infrastructure. This is something that we take into account when we talk about client devices, right? A 3-year, 4-year, 5-year refresh cycle on laptops, and we've got it staggered so that we're refreshing hardware appropriately. But doing that with your infrastructure and making sure that you're taking that modernization approach as a part of that life cycle and planning for it from the beginning really helps you to achieve that want or need or paradigm of being agile for the business.
I think that even if you're just talking about integrations, right? We used to talk about the better together story back in the day. And a lot of it had to do with, well, if you come from my world, right, the VHS versus Betamax, and you ended up buying the Betamax and you're like, oh no, I should have bought the VHS. But now when we talk about manufacturers and we talk about the integrations today, everybody's sort of adapting this similar integration protocols to be able to move data easily, integrate with other products. So a lot of co-opetition. So when you are looking at products and you're looking at that ecosystem to better support whatever applications or whatever you guys are looking to do from a workload perspective or from a business perspective, take a look at what's possible between all of them. It used to be you had to be a better together. Now it's you can go with best of breed and have those integrations still give you that data, that telemetry, the information you're looking for, single pane of glass, because the data flows between all the different areas in the ecosystem.
So we wanted to leave everybody with some direction, some guidance around how to approach modernization. And so we're going to tackle this kind of at a high level and work down into some more specific details. So, if you look at if you're not really focused on modernizing your data center or your infrastructure, how do you go about doing this? And the first place to start is really just understand where you are today and where you want to be, and then understand what that gap is and really start planning and working towards that. But don't lose sight of, as you make changes, that you're adjusting now where you are, which shortens that gap, right? And allows you more focus as you move forward. Doing things like consolidating as you move into, after, what do you do after you have a good understanding of your environment, into that 6 to 18 month window, doing some consolidation, whether it's workloads or platform, or, maybe it's being more deliberate about the platforms that you choose and strategizing towards those particular platforms, but also how can you leverage automation? Doesn't mean you need to be necessarily putting it in place, but start thinking about ways in which you can make your team more effective through day-to-day automation so they can focus more on the human side of what operations is, as well as the business. How can you enable and grow the business as a part of, or support the business as a part of IT? And then as you move into the later stages of the conversation, getting past your initial year and a half or so, this is where you really ought to be incorporating AI or AI assistance along with the automation, but also being much more predictive about what it is that you're looking at from an operational perspective and not being reactive. We've been really good at putting tools in place and understanding data and performing analysis or analytics against, how things are going so that we can kind of look backward. But now with innovation, we should be looking forward and trying to predict what is going to happen with the use of AI. So taking a more practical approach rather than the high level, really focus on strategizing around infrastructure, more for business resilience, business agility. If you're not incorporating that into your process, start doing it today, even as you're identifying where the gaps are. Probably one of those gaps, as we talked about in the previous slide, is not enough resiliency and not enough alignment with the business to be agile and flexible. Working towards a hybrid, which is becoming much more predominant, even for those companies that have moved fully into the cloud. They're looking to move back, not because of cost, surprisingly. A lot of it is because they want to do some AI and automation in-house, and it's more cost effective for them in looking at the numbers to do that on-prem than it is to do it in the cloud today. And it's a case-by-case scenario, but that's a lot of what we're seeing as companies move resources back to on-prem and embrace hybrid. Improving your operations, maturing your operational approach is becoming more predominant in what it is that you need to do and factor in modernization, as we've talked about, and less about that hardware. And I think that's going to be pretty much a recurring theme for probably a good 2 to 3 to 4 more years, is shifting that focus away from hardware, and not to the point of it being a commodity, but focusing more on the other design components that we've talked about rather than the hardware itself. And then, start that conversation around AI with the business. Start exploring solutions that you can leverage AI to improve the way your team works, to improve the way in which you serve the business as a part of IT. And have that AI focus on doing the proper process, right? Automation in a proper fashion, and quit trying to cut corners to increase your efficiency. Have a tool come in, have something else come in and take those repetitive things off the plates of your team and allow them, again, to shift their focus to more important things, and let those daily routines be automated and apply some AI intelligence to it. Don't forget the powering and cooling all of this as we make those design decisions and move to modernize these systems, because they are, although they're more energy efficient, they are generating more heat. So here's some specifics. These are a little bit more specific tasks to really focus on as you look at your 90 days, 6 months to a year, your 36 months out. And that's really take a look at, again, your powering and cooling, your operational maturity. As you look at and identifying those gaps, those are things that you should be focusing on. And then incorporate the concept of life cycle planning. We talked about that a little bit, but again, take the same approach that you take with endpoints and incorporate that whole process into the life cycle of your systems, your servers, your network, your data, and making sure that everything is got a plan behind it. In terms of maintaining its currency, its effectiveness, and its value to contributing towards this modern approach. And then, and then longer term, again, embracing AI to help you with your day-to-day, with identifying threats, being proactive about preventing issues from happening, and really focus on, again, enabling your team to be more effective. But then also, again, continue to move away from that physical infrastructure as a factor in your strategic thinking, and move towards efficiency, effectiveness, and understanding your environment, not only end to end, but from side to side, right, and top to bottom, so that you can make better business decisions around supporting that business and aligning strategically with the direction.
From a data center modernization assessment, right, we're able to come in and take a look at the infrastructure health, the capacity, risk, virtualization platforms. We're doing a lot of these for people that are looking, should I stay with VMware? Should I look at other options? And taking a look at those. So we've done quite a few of those. From a security awareness, right, assessment, we can take a look at what vulnerabilities, maybe some pen testing, 365 security, and then your overall security posture. Network and wireless assessments, we can do everything from predictive, or we can do on-prem assessments. And then from a power, as Alex mentioned, it's become an extreme need today to be able to have proper power and cooling. So that's another area where we're doing assessments there.